Hello, everyone. As we start off the new year in 2026, it's probably not a surprise to many of you that the world is in a state of disarray. I grew up in the 70s, and I remember being outside all day in the 80s, being able to play in the neighborhoods, leaving your doors open, come home before dark. That was pretty much the rule of the day. And wow, in 2026, and I look back, I don't know what happened to the world. So today's talk is about ways to calm our nervous system. And part of psychotherapy, the treatment that I do, it's somatic therapy. What is somatic therapy? It's basically anything to do with how your physical body gets impacted. So a lot of my clients report nausea, headaches, lots of stomach issues, heart palpitations, and those symptoms can often be fueled by stressors. I think the research shows that the medical and physical body, it's connected, right? The brain is not separate from our nervous system. It is all intertwined. And our immune system it's basically it's the set of memory networks. So what has happened to us in the past can affect us in the present. So some of my favorite interventions to use, and I use these myself on a daily basis. If we're activated, we're in that sympathetic arousal state, and which means anxiety, irritability, panic, worry. We're in a heightened state. So we have to do interventions to calm our nervous system. Things such as maybe just putting on a weighted blanket, which can give you a sense of security and peace and calm. Deep breathing, because if we're in a state of anxiety, we don't usually realize that we have that quickened and shallow breathing. And so what the deep breathing does is it kind of manipulates the brain to, it sends messages to the brain that it's okay to restore and reset. There is no danger, assuming that there's no danger. Let me grab my coffee. So when we do the deep breathing, our exhale longer than our inhale is the way to do it. And we have to breathe anyway, right, to survive. So why not focus on regulating your breath and calming that nervous system down? Because when we do that, it gives us more bandwidth to manage the stressors that come in our life. So if the sympathetic system is our heightened state, the parasympathetic system, I remember this by P for peace. So parasympathetic system is rest, restore, calm, and peace. And there's a lot of things that we can do to calm that nervous system. So even stretching, when we stretch, it's just good for our body. But when we're stretching, we're usually doing mindfulness, which is part of the process, and the deep breathing is part of the stretches. So I definitely recommend that kind of stuff. Yoga is another good one to calm that sympathetic system. Music, listening to calm music can definitely calm an activated nervous system. Giving yourself the butterfly hug is another good one. Let's see. So if on the flip side, if a client is in the shutdown mode, freeze mode, disconnected, maybe numb, dissociated, we need to do things that will jumpstart your nervous system, kind of like a car, right? We want to jumpstart the car. So things that we can do there is listening to fast music, cold water on our face, going for fast, brisk walks. If a client is in my office and I notice that they're in a shutdown mode, really numb, or especially if they're dissociating, what I will do is play a little game of toss the pillow back and forth, and I have the client catch it. And usually by the end of that exercise, they're fully activated and they're really whipping it at me sometimes. It's kind of funny. But that is a way, again, to jumpstart that nervous system. And, you know, it's so if we connect it to cortisol, which is it's a stress release hormone, right? So, which peaks in the middle of the night, which often clients and myself sometimes, you know, I notice, whoa, why am I waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning? It's like I'm wide awake, like I have a burst of energy, but it's really, that is connected to stress. So from the time that we wake up in the morning, little habits throughout the day can really, really help your whole well-being. Little things to what you listen to, what you watch on TV, the kinds of conversations that you have with people, all play a role with our psyche, and it either activates our system or it gives us a sense of calm and peace. So engaging as many of our senses, sight, smell, taste, you know, hearing, the visual, all of our senses, that is one way that we can either calm our nervous system or jumpstart that nervous system. And so that is somatic therapy. So the kind of therapy that I do, if you've seen some of my other videos, I do a lot of EMDR therapy, which incorporates somatic therapy. Hypnotherapy, I do a little bit of that, not too often, but that also, you know, to get that person into a state of trance, we engage their senses, usually sound. And if they're able to see in their mind's eye, unlike myself and a lot of other people who have aphantasia, which is the inability to see mental images in our mind when we close our eyes. So I use whatever senses that the person has access to, right? And use some of those interventions. I hope you learned something today. If you have a favorite skill or technique that you use to calm your nervous system, I would love to hear about it. Leave me a comment. I'm always down to hear some new skills, of course. And one that I forgot is definitely movement. So dance. Rhythmic dancing is incredible. You know, there's something about the rhythm and the movement and the predictability or even unpredictability of the movement can really put us in a state of flow and almost in a trance-like state. And if we're in a trance-like state, we're changing the brain waves, right, to the calming, which I think is beta, or maybe the deep is the delta, which, so there's different brain waves. Don't quote me on those, but putting yourself in a state of movement is so good for the body for so many reasons. It can shake off some of that excess energy and stress. You know, when animals in the wild, take a zebra, for example. Let's say they're being chased by a mountain lion. One of the ways that they, assuming they survive, hopefully, right? One of the ways that they regulate themselves after is they shake it off, because they're getting rid of that pent up energy, that stress in the body. And humans can be no different. I think that is a great way to manage some of our stress and pent up emotions in the physical body. So I hope you liked the video. Drop me a comment. Again, I'd love to hear some feedback and what has worked for you. See you next time.